What's up, guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. We had some nice hits across sports last week, and an RPS contributors heater continued. Let's get to the winners. We kick things off with NHL, where our content has been producing some big winners, including our own Jared Kimball, who shipped a seat to the DraftKings NHL Live Final. Wire Rich also hit an NHL recently for over $9K. At Rum Pure Sports, our talent roster is loaded with winners. K Falik has been contributing cores to our members since day one and has been on an epic heater recently. K Falik had success in MMA recently, hitting for $10K. In NBA, he has also been crushing on FanDuel, hitting for $20K and then running it back with an $18K shipper, including his first FanDuel NBA Live Final seat. K Falik's NBA core also helped Bogart Jr. ship for $40K on FanDuel. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to catch K Falik every Monday for our free NFL review show. And K Falik wasn't the only one shipping in NBA. Fur PBC hit for $8,400. M Foley 2 turned $51 into $10K. Abrick also hit for $10K. While the biggest winner, Jackson, used C-Dome and Draft Cheats advice on our free NBA show to ship for $23K. RPS had a nice showing in the DraftKings NFL Finals this past weekend, with both members and contributors participating in the annual event. BigT and myself hit for $20K. Locks won $50K. D. Kafer hit for $70K. Tiger Ball 23 hit for $100K, while RPS member Mr. Panther had a huge $150,000 day. Our Showdown content has had a ton of success this season and continued in Week 15. Big T nailed his 49ers core as usual, featuring his Guy Kittle in the captain, along with CMC and Brock Purdy. Tony rode this core to an 81K night and was joined by our members. Arha 00 hit for $2K. Rip City turned $148 into over $10K. And A. Crowdy turned $34 into over $10K as well. Shout out to our Sunday night crew too for being all over Jahan Dotson in Showdown. And our guy Snyder nailed his Trevor Lawrence call as a guest on our Sunday morning Off the Chalk show.
I really like Trevor Lawrence as a mid-tier QB this week. He's been the third fastest in average time to throw the ball at 2.4 seconds, which is going to be huge against this pass rush, I think.
Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in the core report, drop your winning lineup in the Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value, all sports included, for one low price. While you're watching, hit that like button now. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Till next time, let's keep running pure.
What's going on, everyone? AP over here at Rum Pure Sports, bringing to you once again the lineup building show with our partners Sabersim. I'm here as always each and every week with my guy Jordan. Jordan, what's going on, my man? How are you doing on this very cold day? I know we both live in the Midwest, so it's brutal here.
Yeah, it is freezing cold. -7, my computer says right now. So definitely a cold one, but I'm doing good. Excited to talk about this Christmas Day slate a little bit here. It's a pretty new thing that the NFL's been doing with this, right? I know they did it last year. I don't remember if it was the year before, but always have the Christmas Day basketball slate. Now we've got Christmas Day football too. So pretty excited to talk about this slate. I think it's an interesting one. Been looking at it here a little bit this morning. I think there's an angle I kind of like here. So we'll break it down. We'll pull Sabersim up. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. We have a lot of weather to, on the main slate. A lot of weather is going to come into play with it just being so cold. Not on Sunday, though. The games, one of them is in Miami and the other two are in domes and, in Arizona and then in LA. So, I mean, this is one slate where we are not concerned about cold temperatures and the weather, which is going to be nice. So, yeah, as Jordan and I alluded to, we are going to be discussing the Sunday slate, 3-game slate. We did this last week, and I thought it was a ton of fun. We didn't absolutely nail the game script, but if you did, I want you on our team because it means you have some sort of magical ball out there that, tells you about the future. Because I don't know that many people who had that script going in that first game, and then Kirk Cousins coming back being an absolute hero and getting a win. I mean, what were your thoughts, Jordan, with that game? Like, what an absolute script. Like, you had to play one side of it plus the defense, but, banking on Kirk Cousins to bring them back into it. We all should have known it. Matt Ryan, he's the king of doing that, getting big leads and then, obviously just dumping it all away. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, probably my favorite game of football I've watched all year, just as a fan. It was an amazing game. I will say, we did mention one of the things we talked about last week is these 3-game NFL slates. You got to be comfortable giving up some of those rules that people typically like to build, right? No QB versus my own defense and, limiting certain numbers from the same team. I mean, you nailed it. The nuts for that slate was a ton of Vikings, Kirk Cousins plus, however many. You got to have Dalvin Cook. You got to have Justin Jefferson. You got to have KJ Osborne and the Colts defense, right? And it was a crazy game script. Nobody could have probably really predicted that exact outcome, but it's a high variance game when we only have 3 football games on the slate and you're trying to beat out, 50,000, 100,000 other lineups. You got to be comfortable getting a little uncomfortable with these lineup constructions. So I think it was a really good example of that where, watching a game play out in real time where those traditional rules of thumb that people like those lineups to look all pretty and nice just sometimes fall apart.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And before we dive into the slate, though, I do got to ask everyone, please hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And we do have a promo code going on right now. Ho, 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 25. Ho, 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 25% off your first payment over here at Run Fear Sports. So yeah, like just kind of diving into this slate, we're going to get into the base build, but it's really interesting because we have we have the Broncos Rams who are eliminated. We have the Packers and Dolphins first game of the slate, which is going to be really interesting. Green Bay, 1 game back of the Lions, which is kind of crazy to think about. Lions playing good football right now. So a must win for Green Bay. Also a must win for the Dolphins. I think they're in the 7th spot behind the Chargers. Both teams going to be highly, highly motivated. Going to be a very fun game to watch. And then we got the Bucks and the Cardinals. I was just about to say both teams eliminated, but the Bucks are the first place in the NFC South with a 6-8 record. So the Bucks are still very live. What a terrible division that is. I do got to give the Bucks some credit. They looked decent for about a quarter and a half, and then they regressed to what we have come to know this season with the Bucks and how bad they've been. But let's dive in, Jordan, and let's do our base build. Pull up the screen share here, and then Jordan, walk us through. If you're familiar with the show, you're going to know what you're talking about. But walk us through what a base build is, because each and every week we get people that are new to the show. So talk to us about the base build here.
Yeah. So our regulars know what this is. We do it every single week. It's the first thing we do. But basically, we're just going to build the top 500 cash optimals, right? We're using the average projections, building the highest projected lineups that you can. And what's useful about this is how literally every other optimizer on the market builds all of their lineups, right? A lot of the people in your contest you're competing against using other optimizers, this is what their lineups are going to look like when they first get started. Gives you an idea of what optimizers like, what the field is likely to do. Now, what Sabersim does that is different from this is when you actually go to build your final lineups for your contest using the GPP mode, we're actually using game simulations to power those lineups. So you get a little bit more upside in there. You get a little bit more variance in there. But this is basically just to give us an overall idea of what the slate's looking like. What do the projections look like? What do optimizers like? Even on a 3-game slate, right? There's a lot of players in the pool. There's a lot of data you're looking at. You got ownership projections. You got player projections. Trying to figure out how that's all going to fit together in lineups can be kind of tough. Is 5-minute, 10-minute process of getting an idea of what the slate's kind of looking like on a numbers level before you dive in and start looking a little bit closer at your actual lineups here. So that's why we like to run these.
Yeah, I do this for each sport too. Like yesterday for NBA, NBA a little bit different because the news is always very crazy, but as projections update throughout the slate, it's always good to go back and run that base. It takes a little bit of time to get, it took me a little bit of time to get my process fully defined and down to do it very quickly. But now I can. I know exactly what I'm doing. New news comes, I rerun this base build just to see. Then I can go back to where I was, and then I can start making my adjustments. So it's just a great thing to do with your process. Interesting. I mean, Tom Brady, right there. We were just talking about him. Right there in the so if you changed it by highest projected score too. I like that.
Yeah, we did do that. So that was this week. So that's actually a change on the Sabersim side. It now does that by default if you use the cache mode settings here. So it will sort by projected score.
The one interesting thing to me, so now I've done a lot of my research for this slate, but I haven't, the one thing I haven't done, like I've done a lot of the macro research is what I call it. I haven't done a lot of like looking at pricing, looking at any builds or anything like that. That's kind of my step 2 for NFL, and why I like to wait to when we do the show to before I go and do that. But just my initial impressions, kind of interesting that we don't, it looks like we're not getting a lot of exposure to that first game in these builds, which I think is kind of interesting. 49.5 total versus 36 in the Denver game, 39 in the Tampa Bay game. A lot of that has to do with price is what I am assuming. And then, I mean, man, like Tom Brady to Mike Evans, from a best ball standpoint, Jordan, I know we were talking about that before the show. I hope Mike Evans has himself one of those big games, because he's on one of my better best ball teams that I have that made it through. So I like where the optimal's at right now. I mean, it would serve me well.
Yeah. And do
you have any thoughts though, what we're seeing here?
Yeah, so I like to kind of go position by position here when I'm breaking this down. So, I mean, yeah, you nailed it, right? Looks like, I think Buck stack's going to be very, very popular here in this slate, or probably even a little bit more than the ownership projections indicate. We're getting a little bit Tua, but Tom Brady soaking up almost 70% of the optimals here. So it does seem like that's going to be the more popular stack, at least based on this here. We'll go ahead. Let's take a look at the running backs as well.
Just on the surface, like Chris Godwin seems like an absolute lock from like just pure volume. I mean, especially if you're talking cash games, and it does naturally set up to be like a decent. I mean, Brady's 5'6", Evans 6'1", Godwin 6'9". Now we saw Russell Gage, I believe, 12 targets. So there's going to be some variance, I think, in Tampa, because you have Julio Jones, you have Russell Gage, you have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and then you got Cameron Brate and Cade Otton. There's a lot of pieces there. Then especially with the running back situation too, all of these guys can't go off. So it is going to create kind of a highly, variant situation, it seems like, just between some of these plays. So kind of interesting. I don't know, like, are you hot? Like if you wanted to get some more exposure to this earlier game, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, like, gosh, like quarterbacks have done very well against the Dolphins. So, but Aaron Rodgers hasn't done much. I mean, yeah, it's pretty painful looking at how bad of a season Rodgers is having. I mean, we haven't seen this in quite some time. And so it's going to be picking between all of these kind of dust balls at quarterback. I think you would agree with me. Like, we don't want Russell Wilson or Baker Mayfield or whoever is quarterbacking those two teams, right?
So I actually do think I would agree. And I do think there is a little bit, especially in the large field stuff, there's a little bit of an angle, I think, to attack that middle game just a bit. I think there's two things going on there. So one, Russell Wilson, looked pretty good before he got hurt when he was playing against the Chiefs there. And I think he's feeling like he's got something to play for a little bit here. I mean, I live in Denver. Everybody wants him out. Everybody is ready to just say that was a mistake. Like, I mean, cut it. Like, it's over. And Baker's playing for, I think, his career a little bit. So I'm not saying I'm going to go crazy. I'm not saying I'm blocking that game, but I do think we actually have a situation in a dome in a game that doesn't really mean a lot for either team, that both quarterbacks have their own kind of personal narrative to play for there a little bit. So with the way that the ownership is looking, I don't hate getting to some Bucks Rams stacks here in that game.
So let's do before I get ahead of myself, because I have a few scripts that I really like for this slate. Let's run the tournament, the GPP settings. Yeah. Just to see the difference there. Can you talk to the people? Can you tell the people a little bit about now what we're doing with kind of the exact opposite? We still haven't adjusted the projections. We still haven't added any bias into this. We're running it. Now we're using 10 sim diversity. Can you walk everyone through kind of what this is that we're doing now?
Definitely. So what's going on now here is now we're going to be going into our database of the sims for this game and building lineups that are optimal for sets of sims, right? Which is basically what we're trying to do when we're playing DFS. We're trying to figure out, if certain game outcomes occur, what are the highest scoring lineups that we can build? And that's what this is going to do here now on these GPP settings. So it's going to take correlation a little bit into account here. Small slate, we don't need to massively take into account correlation, but it's something we want to look at. It's going to take into account ownership. I'm actually going to turn this down just a tad for this build. I don't want to go crazy on ownership, so I'm going to bring this down to about 3 or 4 just for this research build here. And then the sim diversity slider, this is the most important one, right? This is saying how many sims are we looking at to build each lineup? At very high, we're just going to use a single game simulation for each game on the slate, build the optimal lineup there for that, which is, 3-game slate, large field GPPs, which is what I've selected here. You gotta have pretty high variance builds to be successful. So we'll go ahead and build this now, take a look at this here and get into it.
Yeah, very, very good stuff. So it looks like you're running 1,500 builds.
Yep.
You can't play 1,500 lineups, but it allows us. So like, why would someone create 1,500 builds? What we do, in step 3 here, now we can dial it in and we can really key in on what builds that we want. So we're taking a big pool. Now we are, adjusting it down, fine tuning everything in step 3 and getting to those, builds, whether it's you're running 1 to 3 or if you're running 150. I always like this process in step 3 to kind of, fine tune things a little bit. So again, what I like here, what I'm seeing, we haven't changed any projections. We haven't added any bias. Now, just through using, the 10 level sim diversity there, we're getting a little bit different. Tua is popping up a ton, 62% of the builds there. And then you got Tom Brady. You got who was the other? Rodgers, Wilson. All right, so yeah, there you go. What? Can you scroll over a little bit? Because I'm curious to see. So Tua's coming up in 62% of our 50 builds.
Yep.
He's in 25%. Okay, there it is. 25% of the 1,500. So that's what I'm saying. If you wanted more Russell Wilson, you have 200 Russell Wilson builds that are in the pool here. If you wanted Baker Mayfield, there are 125 Baker Mayfield builds. So I always like to point that out. I think it's a really cool feature there here in step 3, just kind of fine tuning things with your build. So walk us through this. What are you seeing here, Jordan?
Yeah. So, I just did, just in case, as an example, right? 25% Russell Wilson, 10% Baker. If you want to get a little bit of these guys in there, just get double the field on them, for example. You can just set that as the min exposure, hit apply. We'll go through that pool of 1,500 lineups to find the best 50 that match everything you're looking for, right? And especially with sim diversity at 10, you're going to have a very diverse pool to work from. I think a lot of times people that just get started on Sabersim are actually surprised at how easily they can get what they want within a build, right? Every other tool out there, you got to do all of this ahead of the build to get what you want. If it's, if you're using Sabersim for the first time, or even if you've been using it for a while, right? I think best practice here always is try to get what you're looking for here in that first build, and then go back to the home screen and make adjustments there. AP and I have been doing this show for a while now. We both kind of know how we work with this. So we'll go back to the home screen here in a second and make some adjustments there, but worth trying to make it from a build first.
Let's do that. So here's my idea. I have a script that I really like. Let's run this script, and then let's go with a script that you really like, and let's just kind of see where we land. So here's kind of what I see.
All right.
Tampa Bay, they need to win. They're up against the Cardinals, Trace McSorley, and look, man, they're gonna win. I don't think I don't see them losing this game. And when you think about what Tom Brady wants to do, let's get down to business. Let's get a win here. Let's walk away. Let's keep getting healthy. Because that's the only way that they're going to make an impact, they're in the playoffs. If they make it, which it does seem like they definitely could. I see them honestly, I don't see it being a Brady game. I see it being an Uncle Lenny game or Rashad White. I see them being conservative on offense. I still think Godwin is going to get the target share. I think Russell Gage could maybe get some targets as well. I hope Mike Evans has a good game, but I'm actually kind of concerned here. Like, unless they target him early. So, like, I want to create one rule. Like, I don't want a full stack. Like, I don't want any builds with definitely more than 2 receivers. It might honestly be like 1, to be honest, if we're like really fine tuning these. So it's like either Chris Godwin or Mike Evans or Russell Gage. I definitely want to have some sort of rule there. Maybe we say 2. But then I also don't want to play Brady. And then let me look at this. The next thing to figure out is really Rashad. So maybe the next rule is Rachaad White or Leonard Fournette. It does seem like in these spots, like it really could be either or. Uncle Lenny's look slow, but man, Tom Brady loves this guy. He's going to get the work. He's going to be in there. And so I don't want to just X him out because I don't like him. I think what I want to do is create a rule, Rachaad White or Leonard Fournette.
Mm-hmm.
And so really I want to build out this script that it's just like the Bucs get up, they get a lead. I want the Bucs defense. I like the Bucs defense too. But then I think they play very conservatively. And so that's how I see this going. So like that would basically eliminate Tom Brady stacks. As far as run backs go, I'm not overly confident in what the Cardinals are going to do. I mean, James Conner if they continue to give him the work that he's been seeing, then yeah, he's going to make for a phenomenal play here. It's just, gosh, they're eliminated, nothing really to play for. So now some of these situations are kind of interesting. I do like this Green Bay Miami game. I think this game, you're going to see both offenses be on point. You got Tua been a disaster. Like we've said, this just seems like a spot where, man, get it to your weapons, get it to Tyreek Hill, get it to Jalen Waddle. And this does seem like the game that I want to focus on. And I think it's just a tougher one to stack because of pricing. Tyreek Hill, 9,100. Jalen Waddle, 7,200. So right off the bat, I'm really interested to see if doing a Tua to Tyreek to Waddle is even possible. And if you do that, you definitely need a run back, I think. You want to force at least one run back. Maybe it's A.J. Dillon. He's been highly productive. He's been an absolute machine, a touchdown machine, 4 touchdowns over the last 3 games. So the production's there. The price is okay. And then you have Aaron Jones too. You could almost create a similar rule. So we have the Uncle Lenny or Rachaad White, and then let's create another rule, Aaron Jones or A.J. Dillon in there with these stacks. And then the receivers, I think, man, I almost want to do kind of something similar too, because we don't trust Rodgers. Like I don't trust Rodgers or Brady right now at all. And if we don't trust them, how can we really trust a full receiver stack here? So I want to limit how many receivers that we're playing on the Packers side together too. So maybe we create another group, Christian Watson or Alan Lazard or Doubs. I mean, you could put Tonyan in there too. So, and then with the Dolphins, I'm good. Like I want to see what those stacks look like. And then this Broncos game, Jordan, this is where kind of the variance comes into play. Like I would love to play Kyron Williams. Like you got to think that, man, they work him a little bit, but it could be a true timeshare between him and Cam Akers, Van Jefferson. If we truly think Baker Mayfield is playing for his life, then yeah, he's going to want to get some of these guys involved. Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee, big target there. And then we have Dolchitz on the other side, who's a fine target as well, at the tight end position. I don't want a lot of this game for my preference, but I think we might need a piece or two is kind of what I'm saying. So like my script that I see panning out is I have a ton of interest in this first game, more so on the Tua to Tyreek to Waddle. And then it's less confidence on the Packers side, but knowing we need a run back. And then confident on the Tampa Bay kind of conservative game plan script. That's kind of the script that I want to run, and I want to see what the builds look like.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there on most of it here. So as you were talking, was going through and putting all this in. So I got our rules in, right? So we've got.
It's crazy how fast you do that. I was watching you.
Yeah,
that's impressive, man.
I'm used to it here now. So we got the less than one White and Fournette here, less than one for for Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. We set up the rules for both the passing attack on the Packers and the Bucks to make sure we don't have more than 2 there. And then I also did add in that one as well, that if we do the full Dolphins stack, we get Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle in there, then we've got to at least have that one Packers run back here. So we adjusted a couple of the player projections too, as I heard you mention some names here, just jumped guys up a little bit, up or down. I like the scripts that you presented. I'm with you on this night game here. I kind of like the Bucks and the under kind of script there. I think that is exactly what they're going to do. We didn't touch any player projections here in this middle game, and I do like
leave it.
I was just going to say.
You're going to say.
I kind of want to bump up the team totals just a tad here. Again, I don't even think a 40-point total is that ridiculous for a dome game here. And I see a situation where Russ and Baker are just kind of throwing the ball around. This game means nothing to these teams other than those 2 guys who have something to prove. And it's in the dome. I kind of like this game. So we didn't touch any projections there. So I kind of bump up the totals.
Yeah, you see it all the time. I was lower on Denver defense last week because I knew they're going to be popular and they were eliminated. And I'm just sometimes these teams definitely just they have no motivation. Mm-hmm. I do see that with the Rams defense, Super Bowl, defending Super Bowl champions, a lot of talent obviously on that team, but now you're out of it. And it's you went from world champs to now you're not even making the playoffs and not even close, disastrous year. Who could definitely be a spot. So I'm with you. I think we've seen some of the craziest stuff happen this year in the NFL. Why couldn't this game go nuclear? I mean, seriously, they definitely could. It's Russell Wilson against Baker Mayfield, but there's been crazier things that we've seen this year. So I love it. Let's get to step 2 here. I think we have everything set up. I want to see. Let's go. Let's bring the sim diversity down to 5 or 7. I think.
All right, let's do 7. Yeah, and I think it's generally a good practice here to just at least leave it at the high setting here for this. But I'm down to bring it down a little bit from that 10 there. So otherwise, I think this looks pretty good. So we'll change this run to 50 here 50? And let it rip. Yep.
50. When I multi-enter, so we talk about it quite often. I rarely max enter everything. I do like the 50 builds. And why don't I max everything? Well, I'm a believer and you got to be prudent with your bankroll management. I don't think that you have to max everything to be super efficient. You have to just be in line with your bankroll. You don't want to overextend yourself. And with NBA going on every day, with all the sports and stuff going on, it just, when I'm MMEing right now, it's usually between 35 and 50 builds. And I love using Saber, exactly what we're doing now. I build out scripts, I run the optimizer just like this, and then I fine tune it in this last step. So what are we? All right, we're getting 100% Tyreek. We're getting 96% Tua. Okay. And now we can clean it up a little bit because, all right, let's just say if I'm doing 50 into I'm sure there's a milli maker. I would, if I'm running 50 builds, I would on a 3-game slate, I'd probably have 1 or 2 quarterbacks, or probably 2. So Tua up there, maybe 3. Maybe you could talk me into 3, but I definitely feel good with 2. One of them Tua. I don't want any Brady, so we can
we'll just
eliminate him
there.
Yep. And then let's eliminate Rodgers too, because I just, I know I like that game, but I like there we go. I'm fine with either Tua or Russ Wilson.
All right, let's get a little Russ in here.
Yeah, I like that.
I like that play there. We'll match the field. That should be 80. So 85%, 84% Tua, 16% Russ here. So I like that. Get me a little bit of those Russ stacks in there. I'm surprised it actually looks like his projection dropped down a little bit here.
This first build is really cool. So it's why in the world would you ever play the Packers defense against Tua? Well, what happens if the first play of the game is an interception for a touchdown from the Packers, and then the ball is now back in Tua's hands? So yeah, you need an ideal script to pan out, but we've seen it multiple times this season. Last week being a prime example with Kirk Cousins, disaster in the first half, and then came to life and obviously came back and was a hero. So there is some positive correlation there between a quarterback and opposing defense as far as fantasy goes. So this first build, we got Tua to Waddle Hill, which we liked.
Mm-hmm.
And our run back is tight end, Tonian. And then we got a couple of pieces from these other games. We got Godwin in there that we liked. We got Cam Akers, Tavius Murphy. That's pretty good build right there, right out of the gate. Jordan. I like it.
Yeah, it looks good. And that's the work of the rules that we put in place here on the projection updates, right? That's how we're getting these guys that we liked in here. We get the full Dolphin stack. We get the run back. We gave Chris Godwin a little bit of a boost here. So we get him in there as the flex, get a couple pieces. Exactly. I mean, you nailed it. So yeah, that's the power of the adjustments at work there.
Could we do one thing? Could you walk everyone through the Saber score, and then I want to show the 99th percentile?
Yeah.
And just the difference between the two.
Yep. Yeah. So the Saber score, right? So when we ran the base build, the cash build earlier, that was just sorting by raw projections. This now on the GPP setting, sorting by Saber score here. So what Saber score is intended to do is it's basically supposed to take into account the correlations, the ownership of the lineup, and the overall scoring upside in our sims to just kind of give you an overall upside score of how good a lineup is, right? You don't actually want players to score their average projections to take down GPPs. So looking at the projected score of a lineup isn't always a very good metric of how good a lineup is for GPPs. Saber score is our answer to that. It's essentially trying to quantify how good of a GPP lineup is this. It's always standardized in a build where the best lineup is 100. So you're always looking. So this will be 100. Second best lineup, 99.9, 99.7. Your worst lineup in your pool of 1,500, probably, I don't know, will be maybe around 70, 60, something like that. So it gives you an idea of how high the score is. The percentiles, this is also really useful. So this is looking across the entire range of outcomes in all of our sims of how the slate could play out. What are how high does the lineup score when it has a really big performance? So you see 95th percentile is listed down here, right? That means that in 5% of the sims, this lineup is going to score 170.8 or more. That's the 95th percentile. The 75th percentile, if you wanted to look at that would be this lineup's going to score 152.2 in 25% of the sims, right? So it gives you an idea to visualize the probability of these high upside outcomes here. So it can be a useful research there.
And what scenario would someone want to use like a 99th percentile or a 25th percentile? Or is that more of like for research purposes? Or are there scenarios where you're wanting to pull those builds?
Yeah. So, I mean, it can be very useful for research. I think, one thing right off the bat, it can be useful just to get an idea of like how good of lineups are you building, right?
So it looks like this build right here, not overstacked. Okay. It looks like they're why it might be 99th percentile, in my opinion. We're trying to capture the ceiling of each player here, right? Am I interpreting that correct?
It's the ceiling of the
ceiling of the lineup, but then it's brought together by, because I don't mind that lineup at all either. You got Rachaad White, you got Godwin, who's just been a target monster. So that right there really fits that the double stack isn't in there, but it doesn't matter because it does fit what the script that we were talking about. Godwin, target monster. Brady's going to target him early. If they start going away from the pass, maybe Uncle Lenny doesn't get all the volume there. Maybe it's a true timeshare. And Rachaad White, maybe he's the beneficiary of falling into the end zone over Uncle Lenny. And then you got Lazard and Tonian. I don't mind that. It's like with how bad Rodgers has been, it's a target and price type thing. Maybe Tonian's the guy that falls into the end zone, gets a touchdown. Maybe Lazard, it's just, it's like 7 receptions for 85 yards or something like that or 90 yards. And maybe that's enough to justify pay off that price tag. So I like this build. What about 25th percentile? Can you pull those up as well? Just curious.
Yeah, so I mean, 25th percentile is basically going to be the lineups with the highest floor, right? The lineups that score that have the highest, basically like floor outcomes here. So you'll probably get safer lineups. You're going to get very chalky lineups as well, I would assume in general, because it's it's going to resemble the average projections here. So overall, I would explore the percentiles. I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all solution there of when you should use the percentiles versus Saber score. The one thing to keep in mind is percentiles across the board don't take into account ownership, and Saber score does. So just be aware, that you're not getting too chalky with your builds if you start looking at the percentiles, especially on the 3-game slate.
So here's one thing I do. So let's just say like some weeks I'll run, maybe I just want to run like 3 to 6 builds, and each one is built off of a script. So I do the same thing that we just did, but what I do is make it so that the screen shows all of the builds, like those arrows right there. If you click that. So literally what I'll do, but on the show or whatever, I'll look at it like this. And now what I view it as is, okay, we built the script that we want. Now we know that we're playing, maybe it's a 3 max. There's a $35 5 max. Actually, each and every week on Sundays, I love doing this with that. Maybe you run 1 script or you run 5 scripts and you target it that way because it's a 5 max entry. I'll go through here and I just, almost like hand building, but you're hand building on a completely different level because you can see it and you're like, oh, I really like that build. I make note of it. I screenshot it or I type it out in an Excel doc that I have. I'm old school. That's how it is. But I just love it because I can look at 50 different builds really fast and I can key in and I can identify which one I like, which one I'm going to run. Then I can go and run my next script. But I just wanted to show everyone how they could extend this, make the page bigger. And, it's a process that I like. I think it makes it kind of fun and it gets you to see builds that maybe you wouldn't think of if you were just actually old school, hand building yourself. So something that I always like to do when I'm trying to identify 3 to 5 lineups that I'm going to build.
Yeah, we've also got this lock icon here, which can be pretty useful. If you lock it, it just makes sure that that lineup will always be in your lineup set here. So we flipped over. Okay. Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
We flipped over to 99th and we love this build, right? We like this one here. If we go back now to Saber score here, that lineup will still be in our pool here. I'm sure we can go find it.
What if you if you rerun it though, starting over on step 1, it won't save, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's only in this build here. But that lineup will then stay in here. It's probably, I don't know, it's in here somewhere. I'd have to go find it, but
one thing. All right. So, I mean, if you're trying to like sift through and grab 50 builds, actually doesn't take that long. And what you could do if you wanted to do like my strategy and run 3 different game scripts or whatever, I love that idea. Lock them, download those ones, save it, do the next step. I know you guys mentioned that you're possibly working on something to where you could save some settings, pull them all together eventually. I mean, obviously a huge project, but that would be very cool.
Yeah, definitely. I know people have been asking for the ability to combine lineups from different builds into a set and fill them all into the contest, that kind of stuff, or saving those different scripts so you're not like clearing everything out and starting over on the home screen every time. We've heard those requests, we've heard those ideas, and we are cooking something up there. But it is a pretty big project. It'll end up kind of changing the workflow of the app overall. So we're moving that direction. Pretty excited about that. But
yeah, it's fun. Comment right there in the chat from Vinny. Vinny, what's up, my man? Appreciate you watching. Appreciate the comment. But every other site says straight up, if you can't max it out, don't play it. Like, I mean, I get what they're saying. If you want to be as efficient as possible, yeah, you want to max out the contest that you're in. However, my argument is I think you should play in line with what your bankroll is because you're going to make better decisions. If you're overextended, trust me on this, you're not going to make as good of decisions. You're going to get tilted. You're going to be that guy in Discord that's just, spamming chat with tilt. And, that's not good for anyone. So, and you see it all the time. I've seen people solo ship the $15 like our member won the milli off of like 4 builds. It can happen. Is it as efficient as maxing the contest out? No, doesn't mean you can't do it though. Like it all comes down to bankroll management, in my opinion. and being prudent with that and just designing a strategy. So like if I'm running 50 builds, I'm going to be more aggressive with those 50 because I still view it as I'm building 150. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I take a mindset of 50, but I'm only have 150, but I have 50 in there. That means I have to take stands. And that's one reason why I get so overweight on some of my plays. That's just my view on it. I mean, everyone, obviously entitled to their views, but I just, big advocate of just being smart with the bankroll and everything. So did we want to run, before we get out of here, did we want to run just that kind of maybe a start? I do want to see what these builds look like if the Broncos Ram games goes nuclear. Maybe it's just maybe the defenses fall asleep. Teams that have nothing to play for. Russ Wilson playing for his life. Baker Mayfield playing for his life. I don't know, Jordan. Let's rerun it. Let's see what these look like.
I'm down. Let's do it. I think it's fun.
Should we just
go ahead?
Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it just at a very high level? Like take it. What if the Broncos score 38 and the Rams score 31? Or what do you want? How do you want to do this?
Sure.
That's 28.
Okay. I was going to say that.
Not 38.
28. Yeah. 28, like 24 or something. I feel like maybe is a realistic here. I mean, maybe not realistic, right? Where is given the total, right? That's a big over here, but I could see it, right? In kind of the game script we've been talking about here. So
I've said it the last couple of weeks now. Look, with this NFL season, I'll still make fun of takes just because like, we like to give each other crap here, and that's fine. It's all in good fun. We're not actually like going after each other when we do that. But if someone has a crazy take, man, and it's a gut crazy take, stick with it because that is what has been working this season. So that's the one thing I'll say. And if this game goes nuts, it's going to be very different. But I'm really curious to see what these builds look like.
Yeah, and we'll leave everything else the way we had it. We'll leave our rules intact and run this again.
One thing too. So okay, I do love. All right, so like I'm a big believer in adding some bias, obviously to the Sims. There is the other side of it, like taking bias out, and I 100% understand what a lot of those guys are doing and why you do that. I do, but I am on the other side. I just like to have that bias into it. I do recommend if you change the totals there, like we did, which is going to then change the projections. I still think you go in and you add some additional rules or bias to it, going game by game there. But at a very high level, this is going to be very interesting. So we're getting a lot of Russ, still getting a lot of Tua. So I like that. And then we're getting a little bit of Baker.
Yeah, we got an Aaron Rodgers lineup sneak in there as well. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not that crazy here compared to where we were a minute ago.
I like this first build. Playing on the fact that this Ram, so going back to what we talked about, the one team I could see just really kind of giving up outside of Baker, because I agree with you, he's fighting for his life. But if everyone else on the team gives up, that's not going to be good for him. But so I like if their defense just completely collapses and Russ, it's hard to say Russ cooks, but if he does, if he finds Jerry Jeudy, if he finds Dolchich, and then Latavius Murray, I mean, it sets up to be very contrarian, but very interesting stack there. You still have Tyreek, who obviously a beast, and you still have Chris Godwin kind of as two anchors to create some nice floor ceiling combination there. So, I mean, on paper, I think it's a good build. I like it. A good build in this script is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I like it too. And again, I mean, I think Russ is feeling the fire. I think Hackett is definitely feeling the fire. We played the Chiefs pretty well in that game. Play a good game against the Cardinals here, and then dome game. I love the script. I really do. So I mean, we're not getting a ton. We're still getting a lot of Tua in there, so still pretty balanced here. Getting 2-2 here on a lot of the run backs. One thing that I might do, I noticed 98% 2-2 here. It's quite a bit. I don't know if I want to be totally all in on a guy like that there. So I might start bringing this down. Still fine to be over the field, but maybe something like 60% makes a little bit more sense there. Again, just dialing it in to get this a little bit more the way we want it to look. One other thing, I got to mention it just because I love this feature here. Min uniques, right? What this is going to do is it's basically just going to force your lineups to all be a little bit different from each other. So just even increasing this up to like something like 3 here, you're going to see that your lineups are your exposures are going to come down. Your lineups are going to get a little bit more diversified from each other. It won't generally change your overall strategy. You'll still, like if we go back to our quarterbacks here, right, still getting mostly Tua and Russell, but spreading out a little bit more to some of these other guys. Your lineups will just be a little bit more different. Ultimately, especially you're playing something like, large field GPP, you don't need to take down first, second, third, fourth. Like that's not, you're putting in however many builds you are to have as many shots at first as possible. That's what the Min Uniques is designed to do there.
And Josh, in chat, we're running different game scripts, different situations. This isn't actually what we're playing. We're just showing you, we're highlighting the tool that our partner Sabersim have and how to use it. What we're trying to show you is this is what you should be doing. You should be doing your research, creating scripts in your head, plugging them into the tool. Our preference is obviously Sabersim. We think it's the best, and using it to help you. And so we're just showing you a build that's going to be really outside of the box. That's what we're doing here.
Is Josh making fun of my Broncos take here?
No, I mean, just saying, why would anyone play Russell Wilson? So
here's the thing.
Look at this. Everyone was saying, why are we playing Jonas Valanciunas forever? Because I was playing him every day. Oh, why are we doing? What did he do when I got off? He put up a 70 piece. So things happen, man. You got to sometimes embrace the variance, and a tool like Saber and everything else can help you do that. So
and here's here's the thing. You have to get different somehow on these kinds of slates. And one way to do that is to play the popular script. Maybe you stack up the Dolphins or the Bucks, and you hope to put in that 1% owned guy that nobody's playing on those teams, and that he's the guy that catches the touchdown. You can get so different in your lineup by just playing a different game script and playing a less popular team on these 3-game slates without having to go. I mean, like, you're getting to play the best pass catchers on the Broncos in a script where Russell Wilson is the optimal quarterback, instead of playing Tua and hoping that it's Trent Sherfield is the guy or something, the 1% owned play that you have in that lineup. So I just prefer to differentiate this way with some of these smaller football slates.
I mean, my other argument to Josh is, who isn't a dusty quarterback on this slate? You have Tom Brady, you have Trace McSorley, you have Baker Mayfield, you have Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Tua. They've all been pretty bad. So, I mean, pick your choosing. Like, it's going to be like the roulette wheel. I'm just, you might have better success doing that on this slate. So the other thing that tells me is maybe quarterback isn't that important of a position on this 3-game slate. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's more, it is figuring out game script. It is figuring out what are going to be the key pieces. Cause all right, Jordan, what do you think, like, what's going to be the highest scoring number that a quarterback puts up on this 3-game slate between the names I just mentioned? 24, 23 DK points? Maybe
probably something like that. Yeah. I mean, I was going to look at our player percentiles here and see, I think there's, 75th percentile range for some of these guys is 26, 24. I think that makes a lot of sense here.
Baker's like put up 14 and 7 his last, his 2 games with the Rams. The guy, yeah, all right, Josh, like, the guy who has the best ceiling over the last 10 games is Russell Wilson. 27.48 against the Raiders, 26.5 against Kansas City. And what we're talking about is just, the banking on this Rams defense completely laying down. That's what you need. But yeah, Tua would be the other guy for me as well. But 18, 12, 16, 15, Tua hasn't been that good either. So it's going to be, this is what makes the slate fun. I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun slate. And it's Christmas. It's Christmas. So.
And I like the Tua play too. I think he's going to be popular, and I still kind of want to be over. I think the fade, the big fade for me is Brady, and I think we're both kind of on that there. I totally agree. I think they get up early and just run the ball. Their defense probably plays well. I think Brady wants to win that game with as few passing attempts as possible here. So he looks like he's going to be the most popular one.
for a brief moment, and maybe it was just I had the game on Red Zone. I was doing we do NBA content too on Sundays, so I'm kind of multitasking. But in that first half, they looked good. They looked good, and then they looked very bad. So it's man, like what an absolute disaster that second half was. So many just crazy plays, like bad turnovers, mistakes made by everyone on Tampa Bay. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. But I don't know, man. It's that time of year where Brady does start to show up. So he is going to be a guy I look at, and then same with Tua. But I don't know. I think for you, Jordan, I might have to run a few of these like crazy Bronco Rams stacks indoors. I mean, who knows? Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, you get some salary there too. It lets you get to some of the bigger Dolphins receivers, or it lets you play a little more Godwin and Connor in that night game too. So I like it there. This game does not have to score 55 points for it to be the winning stack. I don't think, especially at the salaries of all the players playing in that game. So I think there's something there.
My kind of final comments, because I got to get the show wrapped up, but my final comments is if you do like the Brady stack, so let's just say that's what you want to run with, I say you overstack it and you mix and match, you multi-enter, and you like have a Tom Brady to Evans Godwin gauge, or like I don't know. I say you overstack it, and what you're banking on is these games, and we've seen them where they're just duds, and maybe a complete overstack is what chips. And if Brady has one of those, I don't know if we've seen it all season, but no, I have 3 touchdowns last game. So maybe he has another 3 or 4 touchdown games, and maybe it's to all the receivers there. Mike Evans, he could have a big game. Godwin, volume monster, and then it's a Russell Gage or Julio Jones. So assuming Julio's in, I believe he was out last game, but limited in practice, so probably should be good to go. So Brady has some weapons there, at least names. Evans, Godwin, obviously the guys I would prefer, but if I had to go the Brady route, I would overstack it. That's kind of where I'm at. But my favorite stack is the Miami side. I think Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and Tua, really, really love that stack. Then run it back with a Dillon or Jones, and then maybe Tanyan or one of these other pieces. So do you have any final takes for this 3-game Christmas slate?
No, I'm definitely down to plant my flag a little bit on this middle game here. I think it's probably going to get slept on. One, I actually kind of like the angle of the Packers stacks as well. In Miami, warm weather, I think Miami's going to put some points up here. I think that the Packers are going to be playing from behind. They're not eliminated yet. It's not looking good for them, but they are going to, I think, go out and try to win this game. There's upside on this offense here. Rodgers hasn't looked great, but Watson can stretch the field. Aaron Jones and Dillon have looked good. I could see that this first game goes over, and I actually kind of like the Packers side of it here against the spread a little bit as well. So focused a lot on this middle game on my stands this particular show, but I kind of like that Packers offense as well.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with that. And then, my only last thing is like, there are some receivers I feel pretty confident about, like Godwin, just from pure volume standpoint. Jerry Jeudy should get a ton of targets. Tyreek Hill, obviously, in that game too. So I might play around with like absolutely punting. I don't know. Like quarterback is just such a weird position this week because these guys are all dust balls. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Basically what I was saying is, could there be a case? Could you make the case? Is there enough separation at maybe the wide receiver position? Like, could you capture enough ceiling from like guys like Mike Evans, and a Tyreek Hill? Like maybe it's a Mike Evans 2 touchdown, 100-yard game. Tyreek Hill maybe goes off, where you jam in a lot of these stud receivers, and then you completely punt at like quarterback, like punt off the position with like a Trace McSorley. Now, yeah, it's very, very dusty path. But if those receivers just absolutely nuke, and it could be what separates you. So a lot of like just interesting roster construction decisions to make. It's going to be a fun Christmas 3-game slate.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, with that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, helps us out a lot. We got a lot more content for you guys coming up. We got Showdown tonight, I believe. Print Factory, those guys are going to be going this afternoon. Make sure to catch that show. And then we have our main slate. So we're doing our main show schedule on Saturday, Christmas Eve. So we have Off the Chop. We have the Morning Wood, and then Up to Lock. That's going to be a ton of fun. And then we have all of our content and stuff too for Sunday. We have 5 NBA games, 3 NFL games. So going to be a ton of fun over here at Rumpier Sports. Again, thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Hope everyone has a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. With that, I'm AP. That's Jordan. Simon, get us out of here.